This video is brought to you by volunteeraudio.com, your #1 source for all things Harley-Davidson audio. From individual radios, speakers, and amps to complete plug-and-play amp and speaker systems, we've got you covered. And once you've ordered your package from Volunteer Audio, it includes lifetime tech support. And we have the very best step-by-step installation video so you can install it yourself and save money. All right, so our new Soundstream radio bolts in exactly like the factory one in every way. So Robbie's going to put the factory screws back in, holding it in place. Now I will tell you, a lot of times we get calls and people are going, hey, there's a gap between my radio and my fairing. You need to definitely, if you're the type that's going to be real picky afterwards, look at your factory radio because you have that same exact gap with it because the dimensions of this are the exact same as that factory radio. Your fairing never fits extremely tight to the radio, and that's also why Harley puts this little foam strip top and bottom on that inner fairing. But while you have the outer off, you're going to look through and you're going to see some air gaps that you normally didn't get to see. All right, so Robbie's got all 4 bolts started. He's now going through and he's just tightening them all up. All right, we're going to put our speedometer and tachometer back in with its 1 upper screw. So Robbie's going to install all 6 of the perimeter screws, and he's going to tighten all of those before we put our screws that go back down into our radio. All right, he's going to go ahead and put the one holding the cubby hole, the little storage pocket back to our bracket. All right, so it looks like ours are lined up pretty well. If they're, if they're not lined up, you can either pry the bracket forward or backwards off of these little fins, or as Robbie's saying, you can go down through these holes with your tool and you can twist it one way or another to line up those bolt holes. But make sure they start straight. Don't strip them out far too often. We're coming behind a factory install or a Rockford amp install that's stripped those holes out. So Robbie started all these. He doesn't normally tighten them until he gets them all started. Again, this is very important. This is part of the framework of your fairing. With all of these tight, you're going to have a much more solid fairing with a lot less vibration. So we want to make sure we put all these back in where they go. All right, so we're going to start putting all of our harnessing back in place. Plugging it back in and working our way around. Now again, there'll be a couple connectors that are not going to be used because we're no longer going to have those grill mounted speakers. So there's a reason you have these additional ones, or they're just not used anymore. Now as we come around through here, we're going to plug back in our factory speaker pod. This is that location I was talking about. If you do happen to have the lower Y harnessing that you're installing, it's going to plug in between here. Now this was a connector for our factory wired headsets. We no longer have that with our new radio, so we don't have to plug that back in. But we really can't remove it because it being a CVO, all of these things are just built into the harnessing. But if you plug it back in, it's not going to do anything either. So this was the antenna that doesn't actually have any reception because there's no antenna on the rear of this motorcycle. We want to make sure we plug in our hidden antenna that's in our fairing when we're done. We're also going to take the wiring from our factory amplifier and we're just going to feed it up into this little storage pocket here. And it's going to hang out in here until we get our amp mounted because we will use this area for additional wiring that we need to tuck away as we go together. Now Robbie's ready to clean this area because this is where our new amplifier is going to stick. He's got some isopropyl rubbing alcohol on a rag. He's just going to clean the dirt off of it.